Hey, I'm Bryan, and this is Vinyl Paints, Adventures in Cel Painting. It seems like I've been introducing a new video series regularly. This is a new series that will focus on my journey of cel painting, what I use, what works, what doesn't, offer advice and opinions on some of the products I've used, maybe save you some money, and maybe help you avoid some of the mistakes I have. The main point of this is to get people interested in cel painting. I think we all know the reasons why cel painting and traditional animation have been phased out of television and film. And though some people think it was necessary, I still strongly believe it has a place and should and could continue. However, the reality is that unfortunately over the last 20 plus years of digital animation, a lot of the materials, methods, and experiences have been lost. Just over a year ago, I decided to start trying to preserve this art form by becoming an active cel painter. I had no idea what I was getting into. Every painting continues to be an amazing new experience with new challenges and new knowledge. I'm what you might call an envelope illustrator. Most of my art is scattered across different envelopes and random papers that I find on my desk. If I'm on the phone, if I'm watching a video on the computer, I'm probably sketching on some random piece of paper. My original idea was that I had just gotten a new surface. I was going to draw everything digitally and then print it out on some sort of cel type paper. And after a few tests, I discovered that one, it won't print on cel papers, and transparency paper, which was my backup plan, is coarse on one side, which presents its own problems that I don't need to talk about right now. So I made the difficult decision to ink by hand. The first step of cel painting is drawing. I think there are a lot of amazing animators and illustrators on YouTube that could show you or teach you how to draw, and they're way more qualified and better than I am. So let's talk about the next step in cel painting, transferring your line art onto a cel. I might refer to this as line art or inking. Like I said, I don't have a technical background, so sometimes I just interchange my words. Over the last year, I've tried various different inking options, trying to see what works best for me. I should be honest, every source I saw looked like the artists were using a dip pen, also known as a calligraphy pen, with various different nibs. Initially, I was hesitant to do this. I maybe used a calligraphy pen once in a high school art class, and I didn't really want to deal with the learning curve. So over the first year, this is what I've been using for my line art. Speedball acrylic ink, Faber-Castell India ink, black and white, the archival ink Sakura pens, Sharpie paint marker, Posca paint marker, the archival ink Sakura pens. I really wanted them to work because they offer different point sizes. I really do like the finesse of the nib. Although it looks good at first, it doesn't adhere to the cel at all. It did work better than some of the other ink pens, but the durability is not there. I ended up doing the face of Supergirl with Sakura pens, and at first it looked great, but as you can see, it slowly started to rub away, leaving this black residue, and I had to redo it with Posca marker. Pros and cons of the Sakura pen. Not really worth going into. It's a great product, just not the right choice for cel inking. Faber-Castell. I had high hopes for the Faber-Castell, but unfortunately the black didn't really perform well during the test, and I never used it on a painting. The white performed a little bit better, and I used it on the Lucy and into the Spider-Verse cel I did, but really I just used it as a way of marking where I wanted my shadows and contrasts to be. I didn't end up using it on any of the ones I recorded because I realized it still had durability issues. Pros and cons of the Faber-Castell. I couldn't recommend the Faber-Castell because it just wasn't designed for this, and it shows during this test. If you're not ready to go into the world of dips and nibs, I think the Posca paint marker are the most versatile of the markers that I've used. The Posca paint marker is described as an acrylic paint marker, and it works very well on cels. It dries to a nice matte finish, which I personally thought really helps make the color from the vinyl paint pop. It's easy to remove if you make a mistake, and I make a lot of mistakes. And most importantly, it dries fast. I found it to be the most durable of all the paint pens I have used. Another great feature is that it does come in 20 different colors. I used the silver, blue, and yellow, and overall they perform very well, but I can't say that all the colors performed amazing. The red isn't as rich as I would like it, and it feels like it's a little faded. The pros of Posca paint marker are a nice matte finish, durable, the quickest dry time, and it comes in various colors. The meh, not all colors perform well, and the price is $6 a marker. They don't last as long as I would like either. Cons. There are a few cons, but I'll circle back to this after I talk about the next one. I probably would have never given the Sharpie a chance, but on one of my most complicated projects, I ran out of the Posca paint marker and I couldn't find any in any store. I ordered some online, but the estimated arrival time was weeks. And I couldn't wait, so I tried the Sharpie paint pen. And honestly, it's not bad. It's different than the Posca. The Sharpie paint pen is oil-based, so it finishes with a more glossy finish, which works if you like it. It did take significantly more time to dry than the Posca. Once it's dry, it's fairly comparable to the Posca in terms of durability. Because I only needed the black, I never tested any of the other colors, but it shows that it is available online in 7 different colors. Pros. It has a nice shiny finish, and after it dries, it's durable. The meh. Not as many color choices, longer dry times. Cons. Sharpie and Posca both have the same cons. I feel hesitant to call this a con, because in truth, none of these pens perform poorly. And it's important to remember that none of them were designed to do this. Remember, cel painting is a dying art form. We are really trying to do the best with what we have. However, I will say this, I quickly outgrew the paint pen. The extra fine bullet tip is 0.07 millimeters, but I struggled with it. As my characters became more detailed, it became too unruly and clumsy. And when it came to small details, especially in faces, eyes, and hands, I found that it hit its limits and would bleed. Value is hard to quantify. I found that I could do about 4 to 10 paintings before the black ran out, which does make them a little bit expensive. Speedball acrylic ink with nib. So, despite all my initial hesitation, I find myself using a dip pen and nib. And just as I thought, it has a steep learning curve, but honestly, not as bad as I would have thought. I don't consider myself a great illustrator, so others might find the transition easier than I did. I'm still making mistakes, but I think it's worth it. Unless I wanted to get a specific look, I don't think I would ever go back to the paint pens. I bought a speedball bundle that comes with 4 different nibs and a small bottle of ink, and at least from a cost point, it's significantly cheaper. This might be from my lack of experience, but I do find it easier to control the nib on the cel as compared to the paint pens that seem to slide around a little bit more and in some ways bleed a little more. Is it harder than the paint pen? Yes, but I feel unlike the paint pen, I have more room to grow and explore with the dip pen. It does come in different colors. I'm working on a follow-up video talking about this, but I wanted to keep this short. Because it's an acrylic ink, I do find that it performs similar to the Posca paint marker in terms of durability, if not perhaps a little bit more durable. Also, I'm going to be straight up honest, I was really worried that the metal tip would slice right through the cel paper, and so far that's not happened, and I consider myself a novice at best with this type of pen. Pros. The oh so fine details. Really, it's night and day what you can accomplish when you're good enough. It's cheaper, durable, and dries just as quickly. Cons. Yeah, I'm not gonna lie, it's harder. But because of the extra control and fine nib, I find that my work is comparable to the markers already, with more room for growth. So where do I stand? Short answer, use whatever will get you painting. Personally, I think the ink and nib is the best choice, but if you want less mess and quicker cleanup times, and a less steep learning curve, both Posca and Sharpie are great. It really comes down to whether you want a glossy or more matte finish. I hope this helps with any line art questions you guys might have. Transferring your line art onto the cel is one of the first hurdles you'll have to overcome. I'm working on some other videos talking about different parts of the animation. I'll be making a video on the paints and on different cel papers or cel medium options. And I know that's probably very important, but I don't want to just give you one option. I want to do more of a comprehensive one where you have a few different options so that you might be able to order them depending on your location and really not waste money, because when we start getting into the cel sheets and vinyl paints, we are getting into a little bit of the pricier section. And this concludes my adventures in cel painting line art. Thanks for joining me. I'm Bryan, and this is Vinyl Paints.